I'd like to bring the meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Evening members, evening public. I'd like to get a motion, to approve the president's agenda. Any questions? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We are going to have a board member comment session before we do public comment to address things we've been talking about. I have a statement I'm going to read. While a recent local news headline about the New York State Comptroller's audit of Chatham Central School District appeared to suggest something fiscally irresponsible has occurred, I want to make it clear that the audit did not find any instances of fraud or malfeasance with our practices. What the audit report represents is a difference in opinion between the Comptroller's office and the district on how we should manage our fund balance and reserves. The Board of Education and the district external auditors respectfully disagree with the Comptroller's opinion, and it is our position that the district's use of fund balance and reserves is appropriate and benefits our taxpayers and students for the long term. The Comptroller's recommendations do not take into account that costs can fluctuate dramatically and that New York State school aid and property tax cap have not kept pace with cost increases. In New York State, we have seen all too often that schools do not have adequate reserves and they are forced to make drastic cuts to their programs and or levy sharp tax increases during financially difficult times. Our philosophy here in Chatham is to leave enough flexibility in the budget to meet any worst case scenarios that may arise during the school year. Any contingent money that goes unspent we use to reduce tax increases the following year or place in a reserve account to offset future expenses. As a result, our district has avoided drastic cuts to our educational programs and year after year has kept tax increases at or often below the limit set by the state property tax cap. We have been able to use reserves to offset large capital project costs associated with needed improvements to our buildings, which would otherwise have come from an increase in property taxes. Due to our strong reserves and long-term financial planning, we have also seen Moody's investors raise the district's bond rating from a AA3 to a AA2, which has resulted in significant savings on interest costs. We have regularly addressed the district's use of the fund balance and reserves at public meetings and presentations, as well as through information our district publishes regularly on our website and in our newsletter that we mail to residents. While we disagree with the opinion of the audit, the district will review our reserve target levels during our annual update of our financial reserve plan. As locally elected board members who live in this district and are charged with its well-being, we firmly stand by our practice of fiscal preparedness for the district. We strongly believe that district's long-term approach has provided and will continue to provide the best possible education for our students in a way that is fiscally responsible and benefits our taxpayers. Do any other board members have a comment at this time?
I'd like to say something short. So this is just a personal observation. I joined the board, it was after the last audit cycle, but I do remember that we were still in sort of the zone of time where we were talking about the results from the previous comptroller audit. And I recall there were similar findings, and we discussed this. Some of our board members are new, but those of us that have been here for a while remember that we discuss this every year. We've discussed this repeatedly, and prior to the current board, this has been a long-standing policy.
Thank you. Anybody else? Moving now to public comment. At this time, the public may address the board. This public comment period is to hear comments that are specifically related to items included on this evening's agenda. During this public comment period will not exceed 20 minutes in total duration and 3 minutes per speaker. The Board of Education will hear comments from students, parents, employees, district residents, district property or business owners, and any other individuals who have received prior approval in accordance with CCSD policy. Is there any public comment?
Yes, we have one.
Welcome, Dave.
Good evening. I come tonight to address the New York State Comptroller audit. I was on the Chatham board for approximately 10 years. I was the finance chair when the last audit was done in 2015. I came in today, spoke for quite a while with Mr. Chuddy. In sitting down with Mike, we were in agreement that the 2015 discrepancies or inefficiencies or things the district could do better or take a look at were no different in 2015 than they were for the 2023. The thing that was definitely different is the communication that the comptroller's team took towards the district. In 2015, the introduction letter states a top priority of the Office of the State Comptroller is to help school district officials manage their districts efficiently and effectively. This audit's results and recommendations are resources for district officials to use in effectively managing operations and in meeting the expectations of their constituents. I think we would all agree that that is what we want from our district, and that is a noble pursuit, and that was called out in 2015's report. Where we deviate is in format, because if we go to the 2015 report, there is no key findings on page 1. What there is in comments in the report on page 2 that state district, this is from the comptroller's office, district officials disagree with certain aspects of our findings and recommendations in our report, but indicated that they plan to implement some of our recommendations. And I couldn't disagree with that comment at all. It was reasonable, and it was exactly the way the board felt after reviewing the comptroller's comments. This year, however, the auditor said in page 1, report highlights under key findings, and this is a direct quote, the board and district officials did not properly manage fund balance and reserves, period. That is toxic, poison, unfair assassination by the comptrollers, auditors, and a failure on their part, and a misrepresentation of the hard work and due diligence that the board, that the district officials, and the taxpayers do receive from this district. Then to follow under key recommendations, again, this is now for the 2023. So they've already said superintendent ought to go, unsatisfactory management, get rid of the business official, fire all the board. This is an unsatisfactory finding. Okay? Then they say, key recommendations, and I quote, except as specified in Appendix A, district officials generally agreed with our recommendations and indicated they planned to take corrective action. That's not true. You justifiably have a different point of view and you were very upfront with them, but they have again done a mischaracterization that just taken on the face of it by the taxpayers who can read this report on the school's website, This is just really terrible what the comptroller's office did. I read Matt and Sal's letter. I compared it to Melanie and Cheryl's from 2015. Your letter was even better. It talked about the COVID thing. And that's exactly why we've always tried to keep our finances plussed up a little bit, because who the heck knows what might happen. And we at that point can't turn to the taxpayers. So if we can hold some rainy day money, we should be doing that. But no malfeasance. So this is my suggestion. I don't think anything needs to be done immediately, and maybe cooler minds will carry. But I think the board right now, we had it in 2015 and you have it now. David Laveau is such a gold chip for our district in being that unelected, just keeping an eye on the finance stuff, and he's going to call it out as he sees it, etc. I just wonder if the board might benefit from thinking on putting together an ad hoc committee from community members who are steeped in finances, in credit ratings, in rainy day funds, in appropriate management of resources, so that it isn't just the district. And I commend you on your adamant comments to the public, but they would expect that from you. And here's the comptroller, why would they be picking on us if this isn't the way they saw it? And that puts the district voter potentially in I don't know who to believe here. And this is just where right now, well before the budget cycle,
we can now, I think I'm fairly certain they saw everything up to what Dave had included. So now I think you could ask again if there's anyone else.
So, well, again, we thanked Mr. O'Connor for his comments and sought any other public comment. If there's anybody in the Zoom land that would like to make that, please indicate so by raising your hand.
For the record, we have 6 persons attached.
How long did we lose there? Was that
What's that?
the full comment period or just part of it?
We just lost right after Dave stopped talking.
Oh, okay. It was just a second.
I had to just restart the application. So there, no hands are indicated at this point.
We want to give the little bit of a berth because it could be reconnection issue, but I think we'll move on. There is no student representative today.
And sorry to interrupt, but Jenna this afternoon sent me a couple notes. So
great. Okay.
I'm going to be Jenna for just a couple moments. And I'm just reading what she had sent. Students are in need of more service opportunities needed for programs like NHS, and if students want to help or volunteer in the community in general, they have an idea, has been brought up to have a representative with the student government to manage service trips and spreading the word about upcoming opportunities. The students doing this would work with an adult from the building and work together to find availability. Under senior fundraising, there's discussions being held to hold a car wash with senior volunteers. The seniors are also discussing and planning on selling a particular item at the car wash made by the seniors at a reduced price to make money while people are having their car washed. Hopefully it's brownies. This money would go towards the senior class. And also they've discussed working with another grade as well if they are in need of money for their own class. And then last, regarding the pep rally, adding a performance element, band, choir, dance, etc., might add to the excitement and spirit at the pep rally. Additionally, a tournament between grades may get more students involved to participate, dodgeball, soccer, etc., and could have students vote with a Google form on what they would actually participate in if they would like to do a tournament of any type of game. So that was Jenna's comments. And I think she's competing cross country, so we wished her well.
I am going to break a little format here. Can I just go back? All right, so we're gonna return to board comment really quickly because I neglected to remind people. Board members, Debbie sent out a meeting on, email on 9/6 about the proposed NISBA resolutions. It looks a little like this. So if you can go to that, click on the links and vote, that would be great. Okay, time for the superintendent's update. Oh, I'm sorry. Clicking on the link. Oh, my bad.
And then we're gonna talk about, the should have a voting delegate that goes. So it's like.
All right, superintendent's update.
Thank you. I'm pleased to report that the opening of school up until Friday was going pretty well.
The one day.
We brought staff back for the 2 days of staff development and opening meetings. And we felt that the year was off to a really good start. And then Friday happened, and as you all know, it's probably the earliest snow day in school Chatham history. We did have to call an extraordinary conditions day. Devastating damage throughout the village and throughout the towns that make up the Chatham School District. Surprisingly, and maybe to our advantage, it happened on a Friday, which gave us all weekend to recover. And so we only lost the one day. As the board knows, the middle school and the bus garage were without power. And secondary to that, travel along Library Place and Kinderhook Street were impossible. So getting our buses out would have been a challenge. We returned to normal operating conditions by Sunday and were able to open the school without any major issues on Monday. I'm probably going to leave someone out, but just a special thanks to the Chatham Fire Department and the Village of Chatham, who worked tirelessly with crews from NYSEG and others to make a lot of hard work seem kind of straightforward. So appreciate that. They were always in constant contact with me, so I was able to figure out what was going on with our buildings and with the streets. And so with gratitude, I send my appreciation. I think that's it. We're going to change the format just a tiny bit with my superintendent's report. What I've discussed with my other district leadership team is we're going to add 2 other components to the superintendent's report. One is going to be a academic component. One's going to be a operational component. So the thought here is this isn't to replace any large academic updates. It's really to give Lisa an opportunity to inform the board on some of the things that she's working on to prioritize our academics and student success during the year. And it's an opportunity for Mike to report out on his areas of responsibility in terms of things that are happening with operations and maintenance, transportation, and food service. Not necessarily finance, because he does that in other ways during periods of time within the district. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Rude. Yes. Oh, sure. Yeah.
Not sure if I did. Is it a possibility that we could apply to the state to get that day back?
So, yeah, and you did.
Okay.
So here's how we're going to handle it. As I mentioned in my email, we typically have to use all of our extraordinary condition days first before the state will entertain a waiver for us. But in talking with our legal counsel, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't have and work with the mayor to have them do a declaration, emergency declaration retroactively, to have that in our back pocket should we need it. So I'm in the process of contacting the mayor to see if they would entertain that for us. It was Chris Lynch felt that it couldn't hurt if we got to an extraordinary winter where we used 7 days or something like that. We would have that as our ability to apply for a waiver. So I'm in the process of doing that. Remember, the way it typically works, depending on when we use those days, we might have to leverage existing conference days, and we may have to always look at the April break should it be just absolutely devastating weather year. So but it doesn't hurt to make sure that we have that taken care of. Right, Dr. Root.
Okay, so I have a slide deck and I'm not going to go through every slide, but I wanted to at least include some of them for resources. So I'll walk you through them. The beginning of the school year is really like a fire hose. There's a lot that's going on. So likewise, there's a lot that's going on in my slide deck. So you can go to the next slide. And I always want to ground us in what the mission statement is of our district first. You can go ahead to the next one. Okay, so thank you to parents who submitted photos of first day of school. When we think of coming back, I always like to keep students' faces in everything that we do. But the things that I'm going to update you on is just some of the landscape of curriculum assessment, technology, and learning spaces. No bigs. JCK Foundation, which I'll tell you a little bit about in a second. Teacher residency program, an update on the American Institutes for Research, National Equity Project District Design, network. And so it's a lot to cover, but I'm going to give you a brief overview in each area. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff, and this is a really hideous slide, and that's because this is all the stuff that we're sort of contending with right now. Shout out to the IT department. We are provisioning all of our apps in a different way. And so we're seeing some hiccups and some access to programs, but that is going. We have our teachers at the elementary school who are all using core knowledge language arts, CKLA. They're starting there. We have iReady Classroom with math. That's the same curriculum. It's just a different format. There's different assessments that are starting with iReady and FastBridge. We have Smithsonian science kits in 5th grade. We have lab aids, some pretty exciting materials that are in the middle school. We have parent-teacher chat that is evolving. What we're waiting on right now is to get all of our classrooms published and get our parents in. So that's a secure way for parents to see assignments and to chat with their teachers. So when we look at our landscape, there's a lot that's happening. We had 2 new English language learners enroll today. So that puts us up to a count of about 27. I say about 27 because some of those have just technically tested out and exited services, but they're still English language learners that we need to support. We have staffing challenges and changes, right? We have teachers coming and going. We have some upcoming changes in leadership. And there we go to this trying to understand what the new normal is. So I say all this because that provides some of the landscape in terms of trying to organize the direction of where we're going. As of 5:03 tonight, we just secured a spot with St. Rose for free Spanish translation services. Super exciting. So really trying to, we've also had several sessions this summer with Arburn and some different organizations to bolster up our supports of multilingual learners. Okay, so JCK Foundation. On what JCK Foundation is an organization that works with schools on mental health, and they also talk directly regarding suicide. Karen Sousa Donovan was the big spearhead in this. She worked together with a pretty robust team at the high school to bring them in. We are using grant funds to bring them in. On the 20th, we're having a faculty meeting. So this group they're going to be with our district for 3 days. They're going to meet with all faculty. On the 21st, they'll meet with high school students and have an assembly and also breakout circles. On the 21st, there is, I have the date right. Am I right, Brett? I'm looking at, okay. That we are having a combination meeting for parents and guardians, where JCK will have It'll be both live in person and virtual, so that parents can have a chance to interact and find out what they're all about. And then on the 22nd, we have middle school assemblies and breakout circles. So if you go to the next page, I included lots of links. So if you're interested in seeing sample presentations or what they're about or what they do, there's lots of resources to get a sense of what's there. And we also wanted to be pretty open and transparent and offer sessions with parents and community, so everyone knows exactly what's being said. Okay, the second thing we have that's very exciting is the teacher residency program. We are one of, now I have to like this, get my sheet real quick, see how many schools were awarded.
While Lisa's looking that up, these presentations will be attached to the public agenda, if not tonight, tomorrow morning, including the board's statement about the controller's audit. We'll have that all up publicly by morning or
Okay,
in the morning.
So 6 districts and 4 BOCES were awarded this grant of $30,000. We are one of the districts, and it's really to address teacher shortages. So we are working, in this particular case, we're working directly with Clarkson University, and we have one of our TAs who will be considered a full-time resident next year. She's working with us this year and doing coursework, and after she should be certified by 24 and 25, and I'm sorry, the following school year.
You're on.
Okay, I'm on.
No, you're on. It's working.
Okay. So it's a 1,000-hour residency. She's working specifically with our English language learner population. So this is great for us, as a first step to grow our own internally. And we're hoping to expand this residency. There's some other organizations that we can work with to expand residencies with other colleges and to really think about what programs that we are in need. So that is in the works. Okay, at our next board meeting, we'll have two guests with us, and they will be actually 3. We'll have Kristen Wilcox from the University of Albany. And we'll have 2 of our coaches from the American Institutes for Research. They're doing a site visit and I convinced them to come on a board night so that they could come and say hello to you. You could meet them. So I included a graphic. This is from a poster that was presented at the Carnegie Institute that we went to. And it gives a little bit of a organization of the work that we do. We are in a partnership with the University of Albany, also Tech Valley, and the American Institutes for Research. Specifically, we're looking at the after effects of COVID on our student population. So they'll be here on the 26th. All right, so I took these slides back. For those of you who've been on the board, I did a board retreat and I pulled a couple slides because the same things hold true. And thinking about these purpose and pathways of how we're organizing what we're doing, and thinking of the analogy of weaving. So you can go to the next slide. And here's where I tried to show that there's within what we do, there's so many things that we're trying to interweave into the work that we do. So I tried to show a collection of what our board goals are, and I know that the board goals are shifting and changing, and I'm looking forward to updating this. But there's so many things that are interwoven and integrate, and they don't exist in isolation. You can go to the next slide. So just as this work that I'm about to introduce is centered under these tenets in terms of a welcoming and affirming environment, high expectations and rigorous instruction, ongoing professional learning and support, and inclusive curriculum and assessment. You can go to the next slide. So if we think about, and we've had some conversations of where could we be in 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So if we think, what if could we, and then that yes, and we're really looking at where we can go and really being purposeful about the decisions that we make and that those decisions take us in the direction that we all want to see Chatham head in. So the question is, with everything that's going on, how do we accomplish this work? So you can go to the next slide. So this is, I'm really excited to let you know that we've been accepted into the National Equity Project. They have a network of school districts that are looking at their school over the course of the next 3 years, and they're working with us to help us find our direction and to redesign where we're going. So what this our commitment is that it's over a course of 3 years. Again, this is grant funded, so there's this is not part of our general funds. That we're taking 3 years to really decide where is it that we're heading, and that we have lots of voices that are in this process. You can go to the next slide. So what this is not, just to be clear, it's not an equity initiative. It's not separate from the core work of our district. It's not a program or training. It's not a predetermined solution. And it's not experts telling us that we need to be more equitable. You can go to the next slide. What it is, and I just highlighted some of the pieces, that this is about being very purposeful in setting up our opportunities to listen to our students in service of transforming their experience, that we're allocating and stewarding time and structures that are necessary for facilitating stakeholder listening sessions across our district and community. And it's an openness to building knowledge around why a focus on student experience and changing learning conditions for students and adults matters. So there's more on here. And there's other districts that we're working with that are involved in this work across the United States. And a lot of those districts will look very different than we are. They might be districts that have heavy presence of Black and Latino youth, or there's just a vast diversity within the space. So it's a thought partner for us. You can go to the next slide. So this redesign, the way that we can think of it is that the year one, which that would be this year, is the year of listening. It's the year of setting up opportunities to listen to our students, listen to our teachers, to the board, to our community, to all of our stakeholders, to think about what it is, where the path that we're going on. Year two is highly focused on building capacity in the leadership team to do this work, specifically around equity competencies and practices. And then year three is really where we hope to test out some exemplars and prototype some solutions, but then come forth and say, this is where we'd like to see us moving as a district. Why I think this design is extremely important is first and foremost, at the top, we've got the Reimagine Board of Education vision. As you start to evolve a new vision and new goals, I'm hoping that this work can provide some data to consider, that we're focused on human-centered leadership. And we have several things cooking. We have a capital project. We have smart schools that we want to be really mindful of how we're using that money, our remaining grant funds. If we think about active learning spaces, if we think about if we're going to alter the physical spaces in the building, we want to have a very solid why and a rationale for what it is that we're doing. So you can go to the next slide. So some of the objectives of this work is to form and to become a highly functioning cross-role design team. So the way that this works is that there's a team of about 6 people who will work directly with the National Equity Project, and then we build a larger team within district. And we're doing this on a couple frameworks, and I do have these frameworks linked so that you can peruse them if you like. We can go to the next slide. So some of the things that we'll be engaged with as our team will meet monthly in terms of district team meetings. We'll have monthly leadership coaching of our team members. And I'd like to say too that the team right now is a bit of a cross section of the smaller team that works just with the National Equity Project, has some district leaders, some building leaders, and also a teacher on that team. There are monthly network convenings. That means that we are partnering with other districts to get a sense of what their work is. And they're also helping us with some tools to collect feedback from students, and specifically that's what's at the bottom. It's a tool designed to sort of measure the quality and equity of our learning spaces. So this is just a little bit about the guidance behind this. This is a further link to the work. So again, if you want to find out a little bit more information about it, you can go here. Go on to the next slide. Okay, so this is, I wanted to put a little bit of this year and at a glance in terms of some of the big initiatives. So there's a big push that will start to map out stakeholder feedback, and that's again from student, staff, community, lots of listening sessions. We wanted to put together teams that are design teams towards this work. We are with our teacher leaders and our entire leadership team. We're using the first half of the year to come together on a shared problem of practice. And I think I mentioned this at a previous board meeting where we're all looking at chronic absenteeism. And I'm using this as a model to show how you work through problems, specifically looking at data and coming up with potential solutions and iterating those solutions. We have a group that is highly focused on assessment, that performance-based piece. So that first half of the year, we're building our capacity. Second half of the year is where we transition to building level teams, and each building level team will be working on a problem of practice that they identify within their building. And we are supported by the National Equity Project, but in a very granular way, we're supported by the University of Albany and the American Institutes of Research in that improvement science process. So the idea is that this is a lot of data collection and also visualization to help all of our stakeholders understand the voice of everybody who's involved in our district to determine our path forward. Go to our next slide. So I took this slide from one of my previous presentations, but why I put this in here is that there's a process for learning to do better. And this is about all of us coming together and having some cohesion in that process. Go to the next slide. So this is my last, I think this is my last one, just about that learning comes from the inside out. I'm thinking that's, can you go forward a couple of other ones? Is that it? Because I'm missing some, so I'll have to update the slide deck. I do have also a slide that has a 4-year at a glance so that you can get a sense of what's happening in the first 3 years that you hope to have in the 4th year. So that was a lot, but it's just a little bit of a window into some of the work that we're doing.
We can entertain questions if you'd like. We can give Mike a quick.
I got a
Yeah.
If there are no
couple.
Yeah,
questions,
okay.
I'd be speechless.
Well, okay, so there's a lot of dreaming there. My questions are a little more concrete. You mentioned the translation services contract.
It's actually, yeah, it's not a contract. It's actually just it's students who are involved in a program who are going to help us translate.
So I guess my question is, did we not have translation services through BOCES before?
We have translation services that we contract with, and they are very expensive. Very expensive.
Yeah.
The St. Rose is free. But right now, I'll give you an example. That community event that we put together, that flyer to get that translated into 3 languages was about $800.
Oh my God.
So if you think of that's a flyer, and and where the direction, this is me personally, so I just want to be careful about that. Like the direction that I'd like to move forward is that our materials are much more accessible in more languages, and we just have to have a way that is
So,
feasible.
yeah, so my question was gonna be on scoping. Clearly, there's a resource constraint if we have to pay a few $100s for a piece of paper. Do you have an idea at this phase what we're going to be able to include in scope? Well, like the school generates a lot of paper, right? All in English. So I guess I'm curious how,
Are you asking like what kind of products we can get from the St. Rose Group?
well, I presume they'll translate whatever we send them. I guess the question is, what's the plan?
So it was literally as of 5:03 tonight that this came about, so I don't have all the details,
Okay.
but I just was so dang excited about it that I wanted to put it on. The other piece of, and it's not a fix all, but it's one of the main reasons that, not main, it's a very compelling reason why we're using this parent teacher chat, is because whatever language is the primary language set on the phone. So say I send a message to you in English, but you speak Turkish, and it'll automatically translate for you, and you can type back to me in Turkish and it'll come back in English. So it's a first step. And also our website is now completely translatable as well. So we have a rudimentary first step, and there's also Google Translate, but there's errors with Google Translate. So I'm mindful about when you use Google Translate and when you don't.
Yeah, okay, so that was gonna be my second question, because I'm aware that those chat services are available, so that's awesome. For some of the board members that may not be aware, unlike, for example, the IRS, which translates everything into multiple languages, we've got a bunch of forms that parents are required to fill out that are only available in English. And I don't know that it stopped anyone from enrolling, but it certainly changed the relationship between the parent and the school when, the parents are also English language learners, right? So,
In the work with the National Equity Project, I have invited some community organizations to be part of that work as well. So the sanctuary movement is one of them that I just want to be really mindful and purposeful about our use of language in the district. And as our diversity increases, that we view that as an asset, that we have the right organizations at the table to give us a perspective that we may not be aware of. So that I'm really proud of the work that is that's coming out of this, and people who are coming to the table. So I mean, I guess I would say if you're listening and this excites you to connect with me, because it's moving. It's good ways.
That parent chat is facilitated through ThrillShare, which is the same company that we use for the website, which is the same company we use for emergency notifications. So if parents have set it up so that they want to receive the message in, I think, a couple different languages, when we send out that emergency notification, it does get translated into other languages. It may not be many yet, but it's still better than just primary English.
all right.
Hudson and Ichabod are engaged in some work too that we want to partner with our multilingual learners as well. So that's Bocha.
I think you covered it, but like those forms that like our student information system spits out in English are like the perfect example of something that is really inaccessible. And
So I think one of the good things that's starting to come out of this is a greater realization of justice. So an example of that would be this summer that we had one of our families that wanted to enroll their child in football, and all of the forms are in English. So the fact that people are stopping and thinking and in really trying to, because this is a different space than a lot of people are used to, it's a step in the right. We have so far to go, but it's a step in the right direction.
yeah, I don't think we need everything translated. I think that as long as there's, if parents know, oh, this is what I do in this situation where I can't read the paper, That's really all they need.
Right. We're getting there, hopefully.
Design teams, can you expand or maybe go into? I'm just trying to understand like what a design,
So
what they would do.
the and I don't have all the pieces yet because and I didn't mention, that's why I think I'm missing some slides, so sorry. So on the 18th, which is next Monday, the National Equity Project's coming to district, so they'll be here for 4 hours to meet with our design team. So our design team is the 6-member team that I mentioned that we're directly liaising with. So we there'll be like an overarching design team, and then we'll create a larger, more inclusive team that's for Chatham. So there's going to be more people involved, that when we're talking about who's engaging with districts across the United States, who's engaging with national, it's almost like if you think of like train the trainer model, that's a really sort of bad way to say it. But we're getting resources and really evolving our practice so that they're helping us so that we can lead this initiative here at Chatham. Does that make sense?
Good.
Good.
Okay, I turn it over to Mr. Chetty.
All right, so I have a couple items tonight on the operational side. First, just with the audit, appreciate your comments, Fred. And I say to this to Sal, if any community members out there want to come in and have any questions on the finances, the reserve plan, or the audit, I'll be happy to meet anytime to go over that. So, and I'll state that again when I do go over our audit in a week or so. Operationally, I want to thank the Buildings and Grounds, Cafeteria, and Transportation Department. I thought it went very well the first day. Superintendent's Day had great breakfast sandwiches from the cafeteria. And then transportation, always we have to work out a few things the first couple of days, which we were working through. But the grounds look great, the buildings insides look great. So I want to thank everyone for that. And obviously the second day on Friday, we had a major storm. But I do want to thank the staff that came in. I was here early in the morning because we were assessing if we could have the football and the volleyball. We wanted to try to keep those events because the high school did have power. And so the fields got cleaned up. We got the games in. I was very happy we got the football in and the volleyball. And I talked to a lot of the community members. They were happy to have a hot meal and, lights and bathrooms. So that worked out very well. So I want to thank all the work that went into that. The other side is capital project. We'll have a meeting probably in the near term. They've been working all over summer, Colliers and SEI, doing a lot of testing for asbestos, the gym floor, the parking lot, the lentils. So they're doing preliminary tests so we can get a good idea of what it's going to cost as we move forward, because we do have a very tight December 1st deadline to get that to the state so we can bid out in February. So we're on pace, and I'm sure we're going to have we talked about, we'll have a project, our capital project meeting in the near future. They've been working very hard every week. They've been here testing things. And the last thing I have is, there's a couple of motions for seeker resolutions. For the $100,000 high school project that the voters approved in May for the high school auditorium. So there's a motion on that. Paperwork's done. We'll get that to the state after that. And then the electric vehicle bus, the electrical work and the charging station. So we can start moving forward on that. That's all I have for tonight. Any questions?
I have a question, but I do want to say that a lot of people were surprised we were able to hold the sports. I think one takeaway from COVID, and I think it's the strength of Chatham, is that, and we saw it again that night, is that when it gets tough, we band together. Sometimes it's just about time, sometimes about heat, hot water, sometimes just about having some sense of normalcy. So I'm glad we were able to hold those sporting events and the turnout seemed pretty good.
I have a question about the athletic program. We were impacted both by the storm last week and some heat. So how are we doing on collecting all of our practice days? Are we our teams together?
I'll leave that to others, but we've seen boys and girls soccer play, we've seen volleyball play, we've seen football play. So it looks like we're following regulations well enough on that.
Just one last item I did have here. I do want to thank the village, the town, everyone that came in. I was on Kinderhook. We got, 4 poles down, the tree. thoroughly impressed that we could get the school going and the cleanup that was done in about, 3 days and getting power back. So I do want to thank everyone involved, and the village provided dry ice and water, and they really came together and pulled in outside resources. So I do want to thank everyone for that.
I think that probably speak for the board in a second. That's it. Any other questions? Okay, on to new business. So we need a motion to designate withdrawn Chatham Public Library materials for disposal.
Motion?
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We need a motion to approve the MOA with the Chatham Central's STA. That was in your notes. Be resolved, Board of Education for the MOA with CCSTA dated August 25th, 2023. This does get us reassign some monies for 2 coaches as we are not having a JV team. It's technical, but in order to make that change, we have to have a resolution and a motion and an MOA. So may I have a motion on that?
Motion. Second.
All in favor? Any questions? Sorry. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion to approve the agreement with Hillcrest Educational Centers, Inc., Day School, the Hillcrest Academy. Be resolved, Board of Education approved placement agreement with Hillcrest for a student to attend their program for current school year, including summer, at the rate approved by the Commissioner of Education, authorized superintendent to sign the agreement. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Motion to increase the adult education stipend. That would be increased to $3,600 effective September 1st, 2023. So that needs to be retroactive. May I have a motion?
Just a note on this, we had previously discussed this, but we neglected to put it into one of the lists, so.
Yep.
I apologize.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second. I have a question. Does this mean we have adult ed programming?
Yeah, so we had a very robust program throughout all of last year. Lauren and Terry have been working very diligently to bring in new ideas. Mike and I met with them a week or 2 ago, and some of them are going to escape me, but we continue to offer yoga and financial planning and retirement planning and a variety of that's right, Zumba, that's Terry, I think's doing that, right? Or not Terry, Teresa. And we've got some exciting crafts and flower making and some other stuff that's planned for this year.
So the last 2 times we talked about this, which is over the probably like 4 years we've spent any amount of time on this. The first time was we have to cancel all adult ed because of COVID. And then after COVID, it was, boy, I hope we can get this train started again. I don't know if anyone wants to do anything that's not remote. And there was an effort underway to try to get the programming together. I would love to have some kind of report to the board on what's happening in adult ed at some point.
I'll tell you, I felt, did we have them come in the past? Let's get, I thought we had them come one time, but what we can do is let's get through this fall session and we can use that as a good example as to some of the things that so perhaps maybe after the holidays, we can have them come in and do an update for us. It is self-supporting, yes, yeah. Yes, all of last year, yeah, we were pretty strong last year.
In fact, I think our advertising around it is actually pretty robust as well.
Yes, and we are planning to put a plug on our sign as well. One of the things that we did make a decision, are we going one more time, or are we gonna, with the postcard, or are we gonna? Can't remember. Many of the other local districts have discontinued the use of a postcard being mailed home to indicate, well, I think years ago we used to mail a whole brochure home, and then we went to just a postcard with a link to our website. That postcard is not inexpensive, especially when we mail it to all residents. And I have to apologize, I can't remember which direction we went in. Right, we're gonna try the recommendation, because it is very expensive, and we are trying to keep it as a cost neutral program. And through the research that Terry and Lauren did, I believe some of the surrounding districts are no longer sending that postcard, they're just relying on the website. So we're gonna try that for one session and see if the enrollment changes or if people are still looking to our website for that information. And so that would be a good data point to analyze once we come back and present to you as well. It's something like $4,000, just, right,
I'd like to see the data on that
Yeah.
as we do it.
Spending about a third of my week in marketing, I will tell you there will definitely be an impact, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't discontinue it. It needs to be replaced by some kind of inbound marketing. So I don't think the website's enough. There needs to be content. So something through the communications department, video clips, whatever.
And I think, you know, if you look through the Chatham Library as an example, they do a really nice job just with their social media and in terms of all the programming that they offer. And so maybe jumping on some of what they're sending out as well. Make a note of that.
Okay, so we have motions. Any further questions? All in favor?
I
Any opposed? Okay, motion to approve the SEQRA resolution on electric bus charges, chargers. Mike mentioned this a few minutes ago. Be it resolved, the Board of Education approve as follows, whereas the Board of Education Chatham School District is considering to undertake a project involving the installation of 5 electronic bus charging stations at the district bus garage, including all necessary underground conduit runs, wiring, panel boards, all included in the project. And whereas the board wishes to fully comply with its obligations under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, or SEQRA, and the regulations thereunder with respect to the proposed action. And whereas the board has carefully considered the nature and scope of the proposed action, and whereas upon review of the foregoing, the board makes the following determinations. The installation of 5 electric bus charging stations at the district bus garage. The project represents maintenance and repair involving no substantial charges in existing facility or structure within the meaning of New York MY or New York Commissioners Regulations 617.5, and or alternately in the replacement, rehabilitation, and reconstruction of a structure or facility of a kind within that meaning, and or alternately a routine activity of an educational institution, including expansion of existing facilities by less than 10,000 square feet. And also that the proposed action will in no case have a significant adverse impact on the environment. And that the action is a type 2 action within the meaning of the Commissioner's Regulations 617.5, and therefore is not subject to review under the SEQRA and the regulations thereunder. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education finds includes the proposed action is a type 2 action within the meaning of the New York Commissioners Regulations 617.5, and therefore is not subject to review of the SEQRA and the regulations thereunder. That's a lot. That being said, it sounds like we're putting in some charging stations, and it's going to be under $100,000, and therefore doesn't need to be reviewed by Commissioners Regulations and fits the SEQRA. Any questions? Go ahead.
Not that it makes any difference, but where are they going to be, those charging stations?
They're gonna be along the middle school wall. Where they go through, where the buses go out, there's space over there, and there's gonna be one in, one of the parking areas for the buses, where it's gonna have 2 chargers. So that was planned out, because we gotta pull from a short electrical source to keep these costs down. Remember, we're trying to keep this all cost neutral through the grant.
Okay.
And that's what I wanted to mention, that any work that you're hearing that's being done for electric buses is being done through the money that we received
Yeah.
in the grant.
Yeah.
So I didn't want the board or the community to think that we were going outside of that scope.
Like, Chris.
Justin, what is the amperage on the charger?
I didn't get that.
We don't know.
They're
Curious.
they're all standard line volt. They're like 20 or 30 amps if I recall. Looking at them, they're really they're not like the latest greatest charging technologies. I think this is the current generation of field proven. But it doesn't have the high amperage charging. It doesn't have the high voltage charging. And the battery systems are run off of they're charged through an alternator, I believe, in the bus, which so that it's none of that direct high voltage technology, if that's what you're looking at.
I thought it was 5 9-volt batteries, but I could be wrong. We'll get that for you though, definitely.
The question I had, Chris, was, are those buses convertible by changing out the charge controller? And we didn't really get an answer to that, but, there's waiting lists for all the latest stuff anyway. We wouldn't be seeing them for, if we wanted the latest generation of tech, we'd be waiting 5 years.
And it'd be obsolete by then.
Yeah.
All right, we're up to any other questions? All right, all in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Did we do a motion? Did I not do a motion? I skipped right over that. I may have a motion.
motion.
May I
Second.
have a, yeah, all. We did the questions. I don't assume there's any more. And revote. All in favor?
I,
Opposed? Motion to approve the SUQRA resolution for the high school auditorium. A lot of the same legal language. The proposed action involves provision of acoustic improvements and projection equipment in the high school building auditorium. It represents maintenance or repair involving no substantial changes in the existing facility or structure, and therefore meets the New York State Commissioners Regulations 17.5. The action will in no case have a significant adverse impact on the environment. And it is a type 2 action within the meaning of the New York State Commissioners Regulation 617.5, and therefore is not necessarily subject to review on the SUQRA. Any questions? Any motion?
second.
All in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Okay, motion to accept the consensus agenda H through I.
Motion.
Questions? Hope? All in favor?
I,
All opposed? We have items for future agenda.
I've got a quick item.
Yep.
Two quick items, but they're almost the same item. Firstly, if it's amenable by the chair, is it possible we can get that statement that you read put into public, since it was read in public anyway?
Yeah, I believe that's the plan. It's gonna be on the website.
It's gonna, but in board docs, can it be removed? Can be moved from executive to public? Okay. Just, I might be looking for it 3 years from now. The second thing is, the last time we had a discussion on audit findings was before the latest press cycle. And I think that there were some private discussions, and I think that there's agreement that the board position has not changed. But I just wanted to maybe either question or reaffirm that really quick. And I have a question for the board, which is, do we think that there's any immediate action by the board that's merited or required? And I don't have strong feelings on this other than we should just discuss it for 30 seconds.
I don't know if this helps with any clarity, but at the next meeting, Mike will be here with Amy, right? With Amy, our external auditor, and they're gonna do a presentation on both the external audit findings, because the audit committee is meeting, and any corrective action and our formal response to the controller's audit that will be taking place at the next meeting. I don't know if that helps.
So Matt, would you be comfortable moving this to the request for a few minute conversation on this to be a little bit better informed by the findings?
We can, with the caveat that Chris and I are going to be, I believe, at the audit meeting. But if you guys had questions for our external audit advisors, now would be a good time to ask them, because we're going to be sitting in front of those guys. We ask lots of questions in front of our business official, but I don't have any concerns, or I just want to give everyone the opportunity to speak at this.
Right, no, I get it.
Yeah, I think considering that the statement was sent out to board members and we got feedback from everybody. If anybody does have a question, please feel free to voice it. But I think my general question would be, is the essence of that letter. I mean, are we in the right on this? Maybe that's the most direct way to ask.
Okay. Anyone else?
And Amy will be here, in some years she's been virtual, but Amy will be here in person, and that's related to the external audit, but on the same evening, Mike is going to address the comptroller's audit as well, so both will be done in the same evening.
Then if conversation or discussion spins out from there, then that might be at least we'll go into it a little bit better informed.
Yeah, and I don't think our external audit is scoped to assess the same things that the comptroller's auditing anyway. In terms of their findings, they're unlikely to cover the same ground, right? Yeah, it's totally different.
These are opinions. Remember, these are opinions. That's
Yep.
the state opinion, it's our opinion. We're allowed to have our opinions.
Yep.
Similar to 15, we're sticking, our first response and the corrective action plan is we will look at the parameters of our reserve plan. That's what we said, but pretty much it's the same response as we had last time. Unless it
Okay.
changes anything.
Okay. We will have a second session. Oh, did we vote on that? Where are we on that? Okay.
The other item, Fred, was you and I had discussed potential meeting on the 20th.
Yeah, I actually just emailed the board
Oh.
on that. So potential future agenda item is to have some sort of an interim meeting between regular board meetings to finish those board goals. I really feel like, and I said this in the email, I feel like we're really close on being able to provide enough direction to district leadership that we can see some things unfold in a positive fashion.
Works for me.
So I threw out two dates, the 20th and the 11th of October. I know there's a gap between, but I have obligations then.
Say that again, what?
The 20th and the 11th, the 20th of September or the 11th of October.
Either day works for me.
During the same time slot, 6 o'clock.
Yeah, I think we could do a 6 o'clock, right? Is that what? I did, yeah. Yeah,
And that would be a non-business meeting. We'd structure it as a workshop.
it would be a workshop, yeah.
But held here, right?
Held here.
Yep.
Okay. But it looks like we're getting some consensus, but please check your emails, get back to me as soon as you can, and I'll let Sal know. Then we'll distribute that publicly.
Yeah, either are fine for me.
Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
me too.
We're good, huh? All
Our
right.
next meeting is the 20th.
All right, Deb, it looks like we're on for the 20th here, next Wednesday.
Will there be a email that goes out confirming that or? Okay.
Anything else for future business? Okay, public comment?
We still have
If the public online would like to speak, please just indicate so by raising your virtual hand.
we have 5 still connected. They're all currently staff.
Okay, we do appreciate you attending virtually as well. Motion to enter executive session.
Motion.
Sorry, can we just state for the public the category of the executive session?
Sure. Be it resolved, Board of Education, enter executive session to discuss collective negotiations, the medical, finance, credit, or employment history of a particular person or corporation or matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or corporation.
Very thorough, thank you.
You asked for it. All right, who seconded that?
Second,
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have to do, oh yeah, right. Motion to appoint Sal D'Angelo as the district clerk pro temp.
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now, there you go.